Okay, we are going to review the most difficult problem from our review yesterday in Savvas. So it was a series of questions that examined the same graph. You will have a problem like this today on your test. You're going to have to drag and drop the coordinates after a series or a single transformation. So a rotation, you're going to have to do a translation. You're going to have to do a series of a rotation or a reflection and a translation. And you're going to have to identify what transformation is mapping one figure onto another. So let's go through these real quick. Okay, the first thing we had to do was rotate ABCD 270 degrees about the origin. So I'm looking at this. I know this is 1. This is quadrant 2. This is quadrant 3. This is quadrant 4. And each shift to a quadrant is going to shift 90 degrees. So we always go to the left. So this is 90. This is 180. And this is 270. Okay. What I do know, and if you have your notes when you're taking your test, is that when I go from quadrant 1 to quadrant 4, x, y, whatever the value for x is going to pop over in the y. Whatever the value of y is going to come over to the x. If I look at quadrant 4 in particular, I have a positive x and I have a negative y. So not only is that x value going to move into the y coordinate, we're also going to take its opposite. Okay? Okay, so whenever we rotate 270 degrees, doesn't matter where we're starting from, you're going to take the opposite of whatever x is, and that becomes our y, and then our y becomes our x. Okay, so let's concentrate on one point in particular. Let's look at A. So A is at 1, 1. So my new A coordinate, they're both 1, but I'm just going to focus on that x. That x moves to our y coordinate, and it becomes its opposite. And our y moves to our x. So our A prime is now 1, negative 1. Now let's look at point D. D starts at 5, 1. So our D prime, that 5, I'm going to move to my y coordinate, and it becomes its opposite. And it's the 1. Okay. So I have right there. Now I'm going to look at C. My original C is at 4, 3. And I'm just going to flippy flop those. So 4 is now my x coordinate, but it's the opposite. And 3 is now my y coordinate, and that is now C prime. So I have 3, negative 2. And the last coordinate I'm going to look at is B. Did I in yellow? Yellow, I said. There we go. Okay, B. And my original location of B is 2, 3. Now I'm just going to take my x coordinate, now becomes my y coordinate. I'm going to take the opposite of that. And 3 now becomes my y coordinate. So I have 3, negative. Oh, I put 4 in the wrong. I put C in the wrong place. Oh no. So that's B. We'll fix that real quick. And that's C. And my figure is congruent. It's just rotated. Okay, so I just want you to remember that this is the rule for 270 degrees only. So you can find your rules in your notes and on the chart. So rewrite your rule, okay, and make sure you understand it before you start doing the transfer of points. Okay, the second part of that was the coordinates at the point after quadrilateral E, F, G, H is translated 3 units right and 2 units down. Okay, so I have E, F, G, H right there. So my rule is 3 units right, so my X increases by 3, and 2 units down, Y minus 2. Okay, let's go ahead and color coordinate these again. So E, the original coordinate is at -5, -1, and so let's use our rule. -5 plus -3 is going to be -2, and you can use your number line to help you with that. 1, 2, 3. So my new E is not here. -1 minus -2. I'm going to go down 3. So 1, 2, 3. So my new E, my E prime is right there. So this is E prime. All right. Let's go ahead and look at H. My original coordinate for H is -1, -1. And if I do x plus 3, -1 plus 3, 1, 2, 3 takes me to 2. And then down 2, start at -1, go down 2, 1, 2 is right here. So, 2. I think I accidentally subtracted. Yeah, make sure you look at your mistakes. I think I accidentally subtracted 3 from E instead of 2. So that is my E prime. Okay. Now let's look at G, which starts here. -2, -3. I'm going to add to that value. -2 plus 3 will take me to -1. -3 minus 2 will take me to -5. Okay, so I have -1, negative. No, +1. +1, -5. So there's my new G. That's my G prime. And last but not least, F. So my F starts at -4, -3. So -4 plus 3 takes me to -1. There's my -1. -3 minus -2 takes me to -5. And that is my F prime. 1, -5. There is my new location here. So that is my E prime, H prime, G prime, F prime. So sometimes this will only ask you for one. So like if I just asked you for the coordinate F prime, then you would only have to identify that one coordinate. You wouldn't have to do all of them. Okay, what are the coordinates of each point after quadrilateral ABC is reflected across the y-axis and then translated 2 units down? Okay, so I'm going to do the reflection first. So, and I'm going to focus in on one point, a few points right now. So if it's reflected across the y-axis right here, every point within this shape has to be equidistant from that y-axis. Okay, so A is 1 away. We don't change how far up and down we are going. We're just flipping it across. B is 2 away, so I'm going to put B there. C is 4 away, so that goes there. And D is 5 away, so it'll go here. So that is after my reflection. Then I'm going to do my translation. Okay, so it's 2 units down. So all we're doing is changing the y coordinate there. So if A is now at 1, -1, B is now at -1, 1. B is now at -2, 5, 3. C is now at -5, 1. That's D. D is now at -5, 1. And C is now at -4, 3. I'm going to focus in on those y coordinates right here. So 1, 3, 1, 3. And I'm translating 2 units down, so I'm going to subtract 2. That's my rule from each one. So my new shape, A prime, prime, C prime, D prime. My coordinates will be -1, -1, because I'm subtracting 2. B will be at -2, and 3 minus 2 is 1. C will be at -5, and 1. That's D. Sorry. -5, 1 minus 2 is -1. And C, let's see, prime, will be at -4, and 3 minus 2 is 1. Okay, so it's just translating 2 units down. You can visually do this also. So 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just moving down 2. Okay, third part of this. What sequence of transformations maps quadrilateral ABCD onto quadrilateral EFGH? So yesterday we had a few brilliant groups figure this out, and what I noticed was it could be very easy to say this is a 180-degree rotation down here. The only problem with that is that A needs to map onto E. And if I did a 180-degree rotation, E would be right here at H location. So that's not going to work. So you got to make sure these are corresponding. A should correspond to E. B should correspond to F. C should correspond to G. And D should correspond to H. Okay, so we have to figure out how those got there. Okay, so we know it's not a 180-degree rotation. That was one of the choices. If it's not one of the choices, then you have to rethink this problem. So the first thing I'm thinking is that they're opposite. Like, it looks like I flipped it, but I have to do something first. I have to get A right across from E. So the first thing I want to do is translate. Just have to figure out how far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 units left. Okay. I'll also write the rule x minus 6, y. Okay, good. So that's our first series. So now I would have this figure right here, A, B, C. Now I can see, oh, look at there. Right in between those two, I have the axes. So I can just reflect about axes. You could also translate 6 down, 6 to the left and 2 down, and then reflect across y equals -1. But if you can see that translation across the x-axis first, that's your best bet. Okay, that was it. Okay, so if you haven't done this yet, you should go in and practice this. Otherwise, just go through your practice and just be prepared for the test later.